All the pretty girls stand up. All the pretty boys stand up.
Pretty boys in the building.
Sway. This right here is my sway. Sway. All the girls are on me. Damn. Everybody pay attention. This right here is my pretty boy sway. 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 Girls on my brain. When I'm pretty, sway. Girl, screw my name. When I'm pretty, sway. Pretty boy, sway. Pretty boy, sway. 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 Girl, on my brain. When I'm pretty boy, sway. Girl, screw my name. When I'm pretty boy, sway.
Soldier.
Get out the way. Pretty boy coming through.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday evening. It's a big day in comic book land because today we got the release of the Fantastic Four official trailer, one of the big flagship films for the MCU coming out later this summer. On top of that, we have the Superman movie coming out, I think the week after or the week before. That movie actually comes out with two major blockbuster movies coming out this later this summer. I decided to have a live stream impromptu and ask ourselves a question: with all the discourse going online and people loving it or hating it, do comic books need movies to be successful? You know, I released a video earlier today, one that was kind of just covering, the market surrounding some of the books related to the Fantastic Four film, the trailer that we got that dropped earlier today. And, I was a little bit early on it because we've had way more sales for the Earth X book than we did for when I made the video, which is earlier this morning. And so we're going to revisit that today. And then I noticed some of the discourse and some of the comments being circled around some of the things that I said in my video. And I decided that, hey, should I do a live stream tonight? Should I talk about some of those comments? Am I the type of person that is petty enough to highlight somebody's comment that I totally disagree with and milk that comment for an hour and 30 minutes tonight on a live stream? You bet your ass I am. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about if movies are necessary for that of comic books and the vintage comic market to be successful. We're also going to talk a little bit about, the FF trailer, maybe go a little more into it. I'm actually hoping that maybe we can have a little bit of a conversation because I would like to hear your guys' thoughts as well. Hopefully some people in the chat will participate. Maybe if you watch this on the VOD, you can leave a comment down below and we can have an interesting conversation about it because there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on this whole topic. And we're definitely going to get into it. But before we do, we got to say what's up to everybody who has tuned in so far. Of course, wouldn't be a live stream without GT Key Comic in the house, with the thumbs up, right away, always the first person. We got Derek Neiman in the house. What's going on? I feel like you were going for the moon emoji, but it didn't show up. I just see that. But to the moon we go. We got Patrick in the house. Nope. Early 2000s story spec was the thing and could always return. Oh, wait. People only buy comics for covers and don't read. So never mind. Patrick, you make a very, very good point. And we're definitely going to get into that because I feel like that's the technical answer for the question topic here today. And it's the right answer if you really think about it. We got 99 Manu in the house. Oh, it's live. I got to make this grocery run quick. Go get your groceries, put on the ear pods. You know what, guys? Greatest thing I've ever had bought in my life are the Apple earpods. They are the best thing. I literally I couldn't do anything without having the mobile earpods because I wouldn't be able to catch up on all my comic book videos and live streams if I couldn't just listen to them, which I often do when I do my errands, like grocery shopping. We got Automatic Comics in the house going on, man. We got Lawrence in the house, Mighty Comics and Collectibles. I am here. He is here. We got Comic Doctor in the house. Dude, we got the Avengers of comic book YouTubers all tuning in. What an exciting day. What an exciting evening. We also got Team Monkey Head swag. Yo, I'm here in Vegas. I picked up a copy of Sanity from Red Hood. I love it. Dude, Team Monkey, that is awesome. That is so cool to hear that. Thank you for picking it up. Glad to hear that you loved it. And shout out to Red Hood for carrying the book, which, by the way, if you guys are in the Las Vegas area, and you like to go see an awesome comic book store, go check out Red Hood Comics because it's an awesome comic book store. I mean, it is an awesome comic book store, but it also has my comic book series Sanity in the store as well, and you can get a copy. So that's pretty cool. We got West Coast Dave Venture. What did I say? The all-stars of comic YouTube. What's this all about? These newfangled moving picture shows. You know, there's a lot of people that are doing their harumphs in all of the various forums out there, you know, talking about giving their opinions on, you know, movies and Silver Surfer and all of this stuff. You know what's funny about that? Can we talk about something for a second? Okay. You know, sometimes people come into my DMs, you know, comic book retailers, and they're telling me that it's like, hey, Swag, you're not a comic book retailer, therefore you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I said about that? You know what I say about that? I'm going to say this. You know what, guys? Like 99.9% of you have never worked in film a day in your life. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You're not allowed to talk about Fantastic Four. You're totally allowed to talk about it because I think that that's such a stupid argument to make. All right, we got Drew in the house. The AirPod Pros are fire. I agree. All right. Let's get into this. Actually, before we get into it, we got to do a little bit of a recap, a little bit of a housekeeping. If you guys could hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. But earlier today, you know, once again, the reason why I bring up this topic is because I put out this video earlier today, kind of covering the Fantastic Four trailer drop. Felt like a good thing to do, you know, because it's like, hey, this is very timely. People are going to talk about this, and there's some books that are going to be related to it because as things do, you know, they always move with the movie market. Comic books too. And when I made my video, we saw Earth X having a couple sales. But ever since I made that video, man, has it really, really picked up? I mean, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 copies. Amazing. We've had 10 sales. Movies are completely dominating the comic book market. 10 sales. Imagine what comic books would be doing right now if they didn't have movies to support them. You'd have negative 10 sales. See what I'm getting at here, guys? You see what I'm getting at here? No, we got to get into it. So, you know, it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like how important are the movies actually for the comic book hobby? And I think there's two ways that we can kind of really like break this down and kind of, you know, tease it out a little bit. On the one hand, in a vacuum, if you lived in a world, a comic collecting world, where one of those worlds had movies and the other world didn't have movies, the one that has movies would be better off for the comic book hobby. I don't think you can argue that, right? It's better to have comic book movies because that is better for the comic book hobby because they're more relevant to pop culture, because in sight, in mind, as the saying goes. And the more that the movies do that, they make people go like, oh yeah, movies, superheroes, characters, blah, 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 blah. Let me go to my favorite LCS and let me buy a bajillion comic books. Yeah, that's exactly how that works. But the question is this. What happens if there's bad movies? If the movies are not good? Can it actually hurt the comic book hobby? I think there's an argument to be made there. I definitely think there's an argument to be made there. Shout out to ASM 101, a book whose brand is forever tarnished in our eyes. I mean, can anyone seriously flex their first appearance of Morbius without someone saying it's Morbin time on their social media post? No, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. And so, you know, it really just depends. You know, if a movie is good, then it's going to be good for comics. If a movie is bad, it's going to be bad for comics. Now, on the flip side of that, if movies didn't exist, can comic books thrive? Are we at the point now where there's been so many bad movies that it's actually hurting the hobby and it's making people very cynical towards comic books as a whole? I think that that's true. And the reason why I know that to be true is look at the discourse, guys. Look at the discourse over the Fantastic Four film right now, obviously specifically in relation to Silver Surfer, you know, the female Silver Surfer. here's the deal. Listen, and I mean, everything in this world is political now, and so we're going to go to it and we're going to get there. Let's go. Let's go here. And listen, I don't have a horse in this race. Like, do I think it's lame that they made a female Silver Surfer? Like, kinda. Like, I'd rather see Norrin Rad. Like, but that's me. Like, I would rather see that. But like at the same time, like, okay, well, what are you gonna do about it? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, okay, they didn't do it. Like, is that mean that the movie is doomed? No, it is doomed actually, because Doctor Doom's gonna be in it. So I think that it's completely overblown. It's completely overblown, the discourse right now, because the thing is like, it doesn't matter what the movies end up doing as long as they, in theory, capture the spirit of the story that they're trying to tell. And the thing is nobody knows what the movie is. Nobody's seen the movie so far. So how can you really know what movie they're trying to do? Maybe it's actually going to be a good thing. Maybe it works for the story. Maybe she dies and then Norrin Rad is so distraught over it that he goes against Galactus, and that's how they're going to get Norrin Rad to do his face turn in the movie. Like, we don't know, right? Like, maybe this is how they're all setting it up. Maybe not. I don't know, but I'm going to wait and see. And I think that that's the thing. It's like, nobody wants to wait and see these days. Everyone is so ready to give their opinion, just like I'm doing right here on my YouTube channel. So I guess I'm a hypocrite in that sense, that I'm giving you guys my opinion. So I think that that's something that is interesting, but it's crazy to see that even with all that discourse, even with all that conversation, people are still buying this book. People are still definitely making a lot of sales. Now, like I said, I'm not the type of person who is so petty that they would bring up a comment to specifically talk about, for a live stream. I would never do that, except for when I do that right now. But I thought that this was really interesting, and again, I'm not necessarily disagree with this person, but I thought that they said this, this was in my comment on my video. Why do they consistently gender swap characters nowadays? You know the answer. It's wrong and ingenuous. Just dismissing the backlash as toxic internet comments is weak. I feel like that was in relation to what I was saying. Disney's woke agenda has hurt many industries. It's affected me personally. It's okay to be pissed about it. It's fine for you to sit on the fence if you like, but to act like people shouldn't be pissed off at this point is wrong. Enough is enough. Try understanding the issue, Swaggle. Guys, I need to understand the issue. It's like, how can you say that I don't understand the issue? I'm the one that works in film. I totally get it. I totally understand the incentives. But what I'm tired about is like the amount of people that are constantly using conjecture over this whole thing. It's like, one, was there a point when wokeness was getting kind of ridiculous and it was very, very transparent and obvious of what the companies were trying to do? Yeah, of course. They were checking some boxes, but can we really say that that's still the case now? I mean, there's going to be leftover elements of it for them, wanting to have certain, boxes checked in movies and things like that with Disney. It's yeah, of course. But clearly they've course corrected at this point. You know what I mean? Brave New World had nothing to do with wokeness. You know what I mean? Agatha House of Harkness was totally fine. These movies are totally fine. And it kind of sucks. And again, all things can be true. Kind of sucks to not get Norrin Rad Silver Surfer. Yeah, that kind of sucks. I get it. I'd like to see Norrin Rad. But who cares? It's fine. It's fine. Anyways, we're kind of straying from the point. But we need to get it back to, do movies really make an effect here? And it's funny because it on the one hand, it is making an effect in so much as the discourse is out there and there's people who seemingly don't want to watch this film. But on the other hand, we're seeing a lot of stuff still selling out there. And then I thought that this was interesting. Let me see if I can find this little post right here, actually, before I do. Let me pull it up. No matter how you slice it, people are still using the movies to big effect. I thought that this was pretty interesting. Check this out. Comicbook.com, in relation to Superman here. New Superman movie inspired variant comic covers. Swipe through to see them all. This is a new DC drop. Art by Jim Lee, Nicola Scott, Dan Jurgens, Dan Mora, Jerry Ordway, Jorge Jimenez, Kevin Maguire, and Frank Quitley. This is simulation simulacra. It's people making variant covers in relation to the James Gunn DC Universe movie that we haven't even got yet. that goes to show you how much the companies still rely on the movies overall, which is like totally crazy and wild to see. All right. Let me just kind of get into some of the comments here because I want it to be a little bit of an open forum. I want it to be a little bit of a discussion and see what the people have to say. See what the people have to say here. Disney no longer gets any goodwill. I need 3 movie reviews before I give them my coin. That is totally fine. I totally understand it. You know, and here's the thing. Here's the most frustrating part about it, because on the other side of the same coin here is we have the people where it's like, if you want to criticize something, if you just don't like a movie, then you get like lumped into like the bad faith people that are, you know, anti the movie for whatever reason. Like it'll be totally fair if we go into Fantastic Four and we all watch it, and if the movie sucks, I'll be the first one to say, yeah, this movie's trash. But I'm gonna like evaluate it based on like the movie itself and not necessarily because of the casting. Now, it could be that the casting is what makes it trash. That could obviously be the case, but we have to wait and see. And I understand the movie review thing. Here's the thing. I'm just at the point now, guys, where it's like, I don't even trust any movie reviews. I just don't listen to anybody because I feel like there are so many things that I've seen now where people are like, oh, that was great. And then I watched it and I was like, that was good? Like that? Let me not go too much on a tangent here, but you have to understand, I'm a little bit of a tough critic when it comes to film and entertainment stuff. I am. On the one hand, I am the most harshest person because I've spent my entire life in film. I've watched so many movies. I went to film school. Okay. You have to understand, I went to film school. I was that pretentious film student. Okay. And then on the other hand, because I've done it, I'm very, very charitable to how difficult it is, because it is very, very difficult to make a movie. It's so hard. So, but with that being said, I just cannot believe like the quality now that people accept as being okay. Like maybe I'm just thinking it too hard and I'm being too harsh, but it's like, to me, the bar is like, you better be Dark Knight. If you're not Dark Knight, then everything else is trash. That's kind of the mentality I have. And I know that that's unreasonable, but at the same time, it's just kind of how I think about it. You know, it's how I think about it. But I completely understand this. And I do agree that there was a lot of bad Disney projects for a long time. And I didn't like Captain America: Brave New World. I just thought that it was not good enough. It's just not well executed. So I understand the suspicion, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. We'll just have to see if it's good. I thought Deadpool was really good. I really liked it. And some people don't want to count Deadpool as a Disney movie, but I think it is kind of like a Disney movie. Even when there are good comic movies, it doesn't cross over to comic sales. But like, doesn't it, Chris? It's hard to really say if that's. I'm open-minded to what you're saying with this, because like, yeah, like if a movie is successful, well, first of all, we actually let's back up before I'm putting the cart before the horse. Let's really unpack this for a second. Can we agree that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a pretty good movie? Like, let's just say it's pretty good, right? I mean, was it the best movie ever? Probably not, but was it like pretty solid? Yeah, it was. Was High Evolutionary really good in that movie? Yeah, 100. He was pretty good. Like, if we're going to say that Guardians 3 was good, we have to say High Evolutionary was really good. And mind you, I'm just trying to say for the general, I actually thought that guy, I forget the actor's name, he did a phenomenal job as that character. But like, did it translate to Thor 134 sales? Like, no, it didn't, right? Because if you look at the values of that book, what it is today versus what it was selling for back in whatever, 2021, 2022, like, it doesn't matter if the movie's good enough to support that. And so this is kind of what's really interesting. It's like, it is so much more a factor in terms of like the pop cultural influence on property, on the Marvel and DC, you know, worlds, like that elevates the people wanting to buy the book. It's not just like, oh, we get the one movie, therefore everyone's a fan, therefore everyone will buy a comic book. Like, that's obviously not how it works. It's like an entire lifetime and process of like movies and cartoons and pajama pants and video games and nostalgia and reading comics and trading cards and all this stuff that's like all these little things that eventually chip away and chip away and chip away. And then it gets somebody into comic books and they read comic books and they like new comic books. And then they say, oh, let me go to the vintage section, and they start collecting vintage comic books. And then they, just want to complete a run. And then they're like, oh, let me spend $20 on a key, and let me spend it. It's like, it's a lifetime of factors that come together to make somebody want to actually buy a book like Thor 134, that then there's enough people that actually want this book that elevates the entire floor value of the book over time. Did I lose you guys on that one? I feel like I was kind of making sense there. But my point is that it's like, yeah, you can't just say that the movies create sales. They create hype. They create volume. That's certainly true. And for a time when the spec market was crazy, they did in fact drive a lot of market sales. But right now it doesn't really do that, because it's the economy. The economy is everything. When you tie your identity to a character, you will always get hurt. That's a really good point. I think the thing is this, it's not that I don't feel like people shouldn't air their grievances with the movies. I think that people totally should. But I think my expectations are so low that I'm just not worried about it. And maybe that's bad. Like, maybe that's the most cynical thing, is that I just don't care if Silver Surfer is good or not, or Silver Surfer's Northern Red or not. I mean, I do care, but you guys know what I mean. I'm just not attached to the idea that this movie has to be a certain thing. I'm just going to go in and watch the movie. And you know what the thing is we got to like really try to unpack some of this stuff. Because when I think back to, say, a movie like Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and granted, this was a different time, because I understand that the culture has completely shifted from what the culture was in 2016 MCU culture versus Phase 4 MCU culture. But like when Civil War came out, like, did anyone care that it wasn't Speedball and the New Warriors that caused like the rupture and the Civil Rights Act, or whatever they call it, the superhero act that everyone had to sign, and that they changed it to be Wanda that set off the bomb? Like, did anyone really care about that? Like, no, of course not. Like, there has to be enough of a leash for the movies and the films to take creative liberties and to change things as they see fit. Like, it doesn't have to match the comic books. And this is actually another problem that I feel like is going to be the new thing within the context of the movies, that I also think is going to be silly and kind of problematic, is I feel like it was in the comics is going to be the new like creative shield that every movie studio does. Like, they're just going to do like literal panel to movie screen adaptations now of comic book materials. And then they're going to say, see, it was in the comic book, therefore you can't criticize it. Like, I think that that's silly. You have to give the filmmaker some liberties in changing things and making their own creative decisions in order for the movies to actually work and fit within the broader narrative of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know what I mean? And I feel like an instance like in Civil War, where they used Wanda to take place of the New Warriors in order to create, the conflict between the government and the superheroes. I thought that's like a genius creative solution. Like, that's actually something where it's like, that's perfect. Like, you took the puzzle pieces that were out there and you made it work into your own cinematic universe. And that's the other thing we have to remember. This is Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not the comic books. Like, they don't have to do direct adaptations anymore. Now, I realize, like I said, again, that was 2016 Marvel. We're in a different world of Marvel. So people are just not as willing to give, them room to make these kind of changes and make these kind of calls. But you kind of have to let them. You know what I mean? You kind of have to let them. Let's see here. Have you seen the Supergirl crypto variant by Cesardi coming out soon? I actually haven't seen that one. I will definitely have to check it out. Or if you got a link, Eggplant, I will definitely take a look. The reality is, old movies a lot of time are so easy to rewatch and just enjoy. But I watch any modern movie the last 10 years or so, and it's so easy to pick apart mistakes and errors. Haikon, I'm actually with you, man. Like, it's just funny because going back to like how I feel about things, I don't want to be critical. Like, I don't want to be critical, but I can't help myself. And the truth is like, Every single one of my peers that works in film, they'll all admit this. I have conversations like this all the time with my film friends, and I'm just like, is it just me, or is the quality of movies going down? And everyone will say the quality of movies is absolutely going down. And it goes back to my favorite quote, the Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. Like, we live in a different world now. Like, streaming has totally changed movies. And the way in which movies are greenlit and created is way different than what they used to be. Certainly 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and even as recently as 10 years ago. It's so different. And so a lot of movies are not as good. I'm a DGA member. It's like every single year for the last 15 years, I've been getting screeners for the Oscars. What they do is they'll send screeners out for all the movies as promotion to all the people within the industry. And I'm not an Oscar voter. Like, I can't vote. But the idea behind it is like, if we get Mickey to check it out and he watches the movie, like, he'll be, having conversations with friends, and he'll say like, oh, did you see like that one movie? Like, oh, it was so good, blah, blah, blah. You should check it out. And then eventually that conversation gets filtered out into the actual voters' ears. But I've been getting the screeners for like 15 years now. And so like, I usually watch like all of the movies, or at least the ones that, are like kind of the big ones. And it's like, I can just see, it's just like the quality has just gone down. Like, it's just gone down because so much of it, again, is tech driven, algorithm driven, focus grouped, audience proofed, watch time oriented, click through rate, like, it's all that. It is all that. And that usually doesn't lead to the best product, because if watch time and click through rate is what determines, the best product, and the data shows what people in theory like, well, this is why, or by that logic, you can say like, well, the TikTok is pure cinema, because TikTok has a high watch time and people are like fixed on it. Therefore, it's better than a movie that's very, very dense and hard to watch and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like the data sometimes skews the way in which they create movies. So it's kind of hard to say. All right, Nando says, can it? Yes. Will it due to all the other factors, i.e. Disney, or lack of dedication from Warner Brothers pre-gun? Who knows? But if the movie sucks, read the books. That's a good solution. And I gotta say, like, I feel like even in my own behaviors, or like the way in which I consume entertainment now, like, I read a lot and I enjoy it, and I like get other enjoyment from other entertainment fields. And I just like, if the movie's not good, like, if I watch like Brave New World and it's like, I didn't really like it, but then I just go pick up like my Ed Brubaker Captain America, omnibus, and I start reading it. And I'm just like, oh, here's my Captain America fix. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, just get it somewhere else. Comic movies only impact old key comics where dealers and resellers start selling the most. It doesn't cross over to new comics. Comic movies only impact old key comics. I mean, I see where you're getting at. But I do think that it impacts new comics, because there's a lot of people that will watch a movie, say like a Deadpool and Wolverine. They'll watch the movie and then they'll go to the comic book store. You know what I mean? Or somebody who used to be a churned comic collector, who watches the films, gets brought back into the hobby. And then the first place that they're going to start most likely is going to be going into a new comic book store or going into a comic shop. And then they will likely get pushed to the new comics. If they're coming back in, maybe they'll go into like the vintage stuff and they'll like have, they'll do that whole discovery process. But actually, if you ever watched my one video where I did with the whiteboard, where it's the evolution of the comic book collector, I actually talk about this idea, because I do think that the movies drive a lot of people back into shops. And then eventually they maybe go on to vintage comic books. But as far as like the values of stuff, yeah, I think to this point, people still heavily rely on the movies as the driving force to be able to sell a book. There's no doubt about that. And I think that this is probably where a lot of friction comes in, and maybe a whole other conversation, because a lot of people use the language of like, Fantastic Four's coming out, it's Fantastic Four's coming out. You better get your FF1. You better get your FF1 quick. And it's like, the reality is, it's like, dude, like the values of comics are still trending down, and they haven't shown that they're not trending down still. So like, there's no reason to think that you have to buy it now before the movie comes out versus like, in December, it's going to be worth 2x. Like clearly there's no indication that that's going to be the case, but sellers still use that and people still capitalize on that, which, as we have with the Earth X book that is being sold right now, there's a lot of happy sellers that woke up this morning with their book being sold and being like, well, why did it sell today? And it's like, because of the trailer. But also Guardians 1 was so good, it took the first appearance of Star-Lord to the moon even today. You know what's interesting about that, Jack, though? Did it? Did it, though? Because, like, if we really think about it, I'm not so sure that that book is as valuable as we all presume it to be. Like, there's a lot of those books, like the first appearance of Gamora and first appearance of Mantis and stuff that, like, I don't know if they're really, like, that desired any more than they ever were. All right, let's do this right here. Let's take a look at that. Let's prove this. All right, here we go. Marvel Premiere or Marvel Preview number 4, first appearance of Star-Lord. Okay. I pulled up a 7.0 copy because, this is one of those books that, there's only 96 9/8. Let's pick a book that is the median census, whatever, that has a 30-day. We can look at the 8.0 as well. 154 on the sale. Yeah, let's look at the 8.0, but there hasn't been a 30-day sale. But like, look at the graph. When did Guardians 1 come out? 2014. So it's like, you can see, it's like before the movie came out, April of 2013, it was $200. Then when the movie came out, went up to $300. But then the next year it was $220, $225, $70, $192. Here's the COVID comic book boom, and then back now to where it is today. So like, if we're looking at that graph over the horizon in which this character has been elevated into movie superstardom, I don't know. It kind of just seems like the people who have wanted that book have wanted that book. And there's been times when it got a little more exciting, and then there's times when it resets. And the reality is like, this book is only going to be ever as valuable as there are people in comic books interested in owning it. And it's not so much like, oh, because he showed up, now he's like a superstar, character that people want to buy his comic book. Don't get me wrong. It does help. It does help over time, but it's over time. And it's like a very, very, very slow increase. You have to think about like the real success people. Somebody like this is maybe a bad example, but somebody like a Deadpool, where it's like, it's taken time for it like to really start to, really go up, and it spikes and then it comes back down and it spikes, but like the floor kind of keeps elevating, but it's an entire process. And it's not just his movie franchise, although that's a big part of it. It's just like decades of him being used in video games, his movie franchise, and also, just people reading his comic books because he's one of the characters that they now give an ongoing series, Drew says, let's not even talk about the Warlock sales. We don't need to talk about Warlock. We don't need to talk about Warlock at all. Mighty says, big characters push big books. Small characters in big character films will push smaller books of films are well perceived. Yeah, this is kind of like I feel like it's hard to talk about Phase 4 movies, but, it's like Black Panther is a good example of this. Like in Civil War, it's like you put Black Panther in the Civil War movie, and then he got his own movie because he was so successful in that. And I think that a lot of times it's best to have the smaller characters in the bigger character movie than it is to just have, the smaller character thing. But it's all like a balloon, where it's like, even if we think about like the vintage buying behaviors, like every book is going to be a ladder book to a better book, because better books are always going to be the ones that are more historic. So everyone would trade every modern key or first appearance of a current MCU character for an AF-15. And then everyone would probably trade their AF-15 for a Batman 1. And everyone would probably trade their Batman 1 for a Tech 27. And everyone would probably trade their Tech 27 for an Action 1. And really it's just the volume of the inflated balloon of people that are collecting stuff that keep going up and up, the collecting hierarchy. And so long as that balloon continues to inflate, then the people on the bottom will find interest into the minor keys and the other books and the tertiary characters. But if people stop collecting, then you're going to say like, well, why would I spend $100 on, the Earth X first Silver Surfer Shalaba when I can spend $50 more for the original of FF48? And they say, well, why would I spend, this much on the FF48 when I can buy an ASM1? And why would I buy an ASM1 when I buy A15? It's like, if that's where the balloon starts to shrink. I feel like my analogies are working, but sometimes I'm just shooting from the hip here, and I don't know if it's actually translating, but I think that made sense. Lots of movies are so formulaic and devoid of spirit. Too much content being released across all mediums bring lesser quality direction and script writing in order to pump out volume. 100%, Austin. 100%. It is a quantity over quality thing because you're competing with everyone in every entertainment field across all platforms all the time. Like, movies are not just competing with movies, they're competing with TikTok and social media and YouTube channels and everything. Like, everyone is vying for the time. So it's like, you just got to constantly feed the machine and pump it out. And what's interesting with the devoid of spirit thing? Again, if you're excited about the Fantastic Four film, I'm generally excited. I'm definitely want to see it, and hopefully it's good. But there is something to that point that I feel like the devoid of spirit part, I think, is so true. And I haven't really thought through my thoughts on this, but I'm going to just shoot from the hip and go. I feel like when I watch the FF trailer, something feels off to me. Like it's missing a little something. It's missing Norrin Rad. Jokes, guys, jokes. No, it's missing like some thematic through line that like it's like, I know that in the trailer, they're saying the words, right? They're talking about family. It's about family. We'll do this together, right? They're trying to hit these themes and trying to connect these dots. But it feels hollow to me because I don't get the sense that there is this like really, truly beautifully crafted thematic connective tissue that, like, why is it Galactus? What does Galactus represent? Why is he the villain? Like, how does that relate to them and the family and the story? And maybe it's in the movie, but it's certainly not in the trailer. And I can tell that it's missing, and there's something that feels hollow about it. For instance, there's this great story about like, in film, you have plot and then you have story, right? The plot is Galactus is coming to, eat Earth, and Fantastic Four has to stop him. That's the plot. And then the story is like the subtext around that. Maybe in this instance, it would be about the family and their dynamics and why they have to come together to defeat this evil thing or whatever. And if you watch stuff like Batman, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, Christopher Nolan stuff, his themes are always very, very strong and cohesive. Usually, not all the time, but like he tends to like really nail those points home. And that's what makes movies like masterpieces. And I'm looking for that with a lot of the superhero films. I'm always looking for like the masterpiece in it. And something is missing with this one. Something's just missing with this one. And they're saying the words, but they feel hollow. I don't know. It's missing its spirit. Maybe it'll be there. Maybe it'll be there in the movie. We just have to wait and see. That's a salient point because High Evolutionary is still alive in the MCU. They didn't kill him like every other villain. Yeah, he is still alive and nobody cares about his book. I like the book. I like it. Movie shows keep the characters relevant no matter what versions we get. There needs to be a blend of modern representations as well as iconic. I mean, certainly you got to keep characters relevant. A book is only as valuable as it is culturally relevant. That's what we say. Characters are only as popular as they are relevant to pop culture. Right? So yeah, you have to involve them in some way. The Minecraft movie is huge, but the comic's still worthless. The problem is when kids today grew up and are nostalgic for Minecraft, they aren't going to buy comics to scratch that itch. This is very true. This is a very, very good point. And I think nostalgia is a big component to it. And this is why it's like you have to build nostalgia in other ways for these kids. So like, this is why I talk about Marvel Rivals so much, because like this is going to be the new way that these kids build nostalgia. And it's not to say that the comic books are going to sell after that. What I am trying to say is that maybe some scrapes off of their Marvel Rival fandom, some of the scraps make their way into comic books. Maybe some of these Minecraft kids that love the Minecraft movie might go to a comic hobby store to pick up a Minecraft tchotchke and also buy a Minecraft comic book while they're there. You just have to get people in it. Mike says, big characters push big books, smaller characters in big films, if well received. Oh, okay. Well, I already read that one. My bad. Let's see here. Swag, what up, G and DC Christian Bale? All three Batman movies hold up to the MCU has done in the last 20 years, I think, in my opinion. Are you saying, Shauna, that you like the Batman movies better? I mean, I think that they are more cohesive, for sure. Virtual Reality says, but what if they're doing it based on identity politics? Well, I think that it's definitely the case that at a certain time, clearly movies were doing stuff based on identity politics. There's no doubt. I mean, the reality is like all these movies are making choices based on what they think is going to be financially successful. That's the reality. And there was a time when the Overton window suggested that diversity was a more profitable way of doing things and that they should go out in PR and parade around and say, like, we have a diverse cast and that's why we're doing this thing. And they thought that that was going to be the thing that people wanted to hear. And that would be the most financially profitable thing. Clearly that's the case. And I think now it's probably not the case, or the culture has shifted to a point where they probably don't see it as, a good move to lead, have that be the message going forward. And I can tell this by the PR people that I've talked to in my life. Like I have a lot of friends who are actors. And I think it's really interesting because like I would talk to them about, them going on like PR campaigns or excuse me, PR outlets. And it's always interesting to hear the messages that they get from people, which I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the people that, or a lot of the actors that say some things. And then there's going to be people out there that make fun of what they say. Like, I get it because I think they're getting fed talking points a lot of the times. And they're just repeating what they think people want to hear, which a lot of times it's very, very lazy and disconnected. And they can't really even articulate it where, a lot of PR people will just tell them like, oh, tell them like, how diversity is so important, all this stuff. And even if that is the case, it is what it is, guys. Like we just live in a place where everything is so toxic in terms of it. So it's like, it all of a sudden becomes like a dog whistle for something else. Like if you say diversity is important, even though in a vacuum, that statement is correct. Like, yeah, diversity is good. But like when you say it in a movie campaign thing, obviously that comes with like a mountain of subtext that like the entire culture, is so polarized about. But anyways, people keep getting fed these talking points. And I think actors just say this stuff and they just want people to like it and see the movie. When in reality, what they should just say is take a humility approach and just say, I'm just so happy to be a part of this movie and I hope people enjoy it. And that's really all they should say. They don't change the movie to be creative. They change them to preach. I'm not always convinced that that's really the case. I don't necessarily, I think, okay, here, let me say, I think some filmmakers are trying to convey some messages, but I think by and large, and this is just my opinion, I think Disney is mostly just trying to make money. And they just thought that at the time, preaching a certain message was going to make them the most amount of money because they felt like that would be the thing that appealed to the most people. So they went with that. And whatever they think is the thing that people want to hear now, they're going to go with that. And that's what it is. And it'll always be that. They will always just try to drive the messaging they think people will want to hear in order to sell tickets. That's what they will always do. Pop says, there are many terrible moments from the comics that have already been terrible in movies. Remember the 5-person handshake in A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? I've scratched League of Extraordinary Gentlemen from my memory. So I don't remember that part. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like in comic books, like, oh, it was in the comics, therefore, like, it's good. It's like, no, like, that's so silly. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's just as good. Now, let me go back to my one reference where I said, remember, they changed the New Warriors and Speedball to not be the catalyst for Civil War. Good change, in my opinion, right? And who cares? Like, nobody was crying like, oh, where's Speedball? Although it'd be kind of fun to see Speedball. And similarly, like, they changed Gore the God Butcher's appearance. Bad change. They should have stuck to the comics in that one. So at the end of the day, it's like, it's either good or it's not good. And that's all that matters. Change, no change. All that matters is if it's good. I like to see a Spectre DC movie or Kid Comanche, The Last Boy on Earth, or Lobo solo movie. I think it would be cool. You know what's funny about Shauna is, did you see those fake Lobo pictures that were all over the internet? I was getting pretty hyped. I was like, oh, shoot, Lobo leaks. And then they were AI. Actually, I want to do a video about this. I don't know if you guys have seen the footage that someone made. It was like a fan film thing of Dr. Doom confronting Thanos, having that moment from Secret Wars where they just took the comic book. Like, is it perfect? No. But was it like pretty cool that someone just made this with like AI? Yeah, it was. And I got to say, if I'm a filmmaker working on the MCU and DCU right now, I'm really worried that individual people can output with AI that level of quality, because it was pretty darn good. And I know people don't like to hear about how AI is going to like take over. Sorry, guys, it totally is. But like, once we get to the point where like, you don't even need Kevin Feige, you know what I mean? Like, we can watch like the whoever cinematic universe. They could just take Marvel and they could just make their own, you know, cinematic universe on the level of Kevin Feige's. Like, there's going to be somebody out there that is going to be able to make better creative choices than the people who are currently in control can actually do. And that person's MCU is going to be amazing. And I'd be worried if I was them. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy. See what you guys are saying here. The people that finance movies for 100 years have started to pull out, just like they pulled from the music industry back in the end of the MP3 era. Well, most entertainment and tech VC stuff has really dried up. We're in a different economy right now. Like, we were in 2021 and 2022, and people were buying NFTs for $1 million. And now we're not. You know, now we're risk off and actually going back to real value. Hey, Derek Neiman with the 5 gifted Swaggle memberships. That is awesome, Derek. I really appreciate that. You know what's funny is, I hope that I have my gifted memberships turned on, or I don't know how this actually works, but hopefully we got some new members out there, and then it actually works. But I appreciate you, Derek. Thank you. Brandon says, question, is the flamethrower doing okay? The flamethrower is doing good. And just wait. Just wait. Because we are definitely going to get it hot very, very soon. All right, let's see what else people are saying here. This new generation will love fine art comics. They're buying old vintage tech for some reason. So that has translate later on, right? I do. Well, yeah. I mean, there is a lot of people that like the novelty of vintage things. I think that people will always enjoy that to some level. But the question is, will there be enough people that think comics are cool in a kind of ironic, trendy, vintage sense to keep the entire comic book market afloat as far as the values are concerned? We still don't know. We still don't know. Joe says, devil's advocate, stock market is trending down too. Let's see what happens when markets turn green again and then put the common market prices under the microscope. Here's the thing, Joe. I 100% agree with you. Like, this is my entire premise and thesis. I think that comic values have more to do with the economy than it does to do with one single movie or one cultural tie-in to whatever is going on, like with the Fantastic Four film. I think that, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the economy from here, but let's just say that by the time we get to 2027, we're in better, greener pastures as far as the economy is concerned. That'll be the same time that Secret Wars comes out. And then when the Secret Wars trailer drops and everyone loses their mind and comic books are selling like for insane amounts of money, we're all going to be like, oh, it's because of Secret Wars. But in reality, I think it's going to be because the economy is in better shape. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. You know what I mean? And one time I did a deep dive in a video about this a long time ago, and it was super stale and super boring and nobody watched it. And I completely understand why nobody watched it because it was pretty boring. But I did this look at FF48. And the reason why I picked FF48 is because it has, it's got a high enough census and it's been around for a long time and it's been a key for a long time. And there's enough volume out there that I could just take that one book and look at it. And I looked at it cross against all like the, stock market and the financial crisis of 2008 and what interest rates are and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, my whole point and takeaway from that video was, yeah, the value of that book is more corollary with lower interest rate environments when in theory people are spending more money. There's more more risk on stuff that people are buying than it had to do with, the Fantastic Four movie came out. You know what I mean? So I think that could be the case, once we get to it. If gender swapping and race switching is an obvious red flag for the movie being terrible and bombing, then why do they do it? Well, I don't think that they think that it's signaling a red flag. But I think that we are at a point now where there's been like a confluence of things, and this goes beyond obviously just movies. I mean, like it's been in everything. It's if you guys know about the video game world and all this stuff, like it's all of that too. So I understand people's like allergy towards like the race bending and gender swapping and all that stuff, and why they think that that's going to yield a poor story, because oftentimes if it's more important for them to check boxes than it is to tell a good story, that might be an indication that the movie ends up not being very good. But I don't think the filmmakers are really thinking about that. And then on top of that, I think that it doesn't always net out that way. Like it could be a red flag, but at the same time, it could just be good. And here's something that I will say. All right. This is what I'll say. I don't think the Black Widow movie was all that good, to be honest. Like it was okay. And when I say okay, it's pretty low. Like if I was going to do a tier list, I'd put it pretty low on my tier list of MCU films. I didn't think it was that great. But of all the things to complain about with that movie, I honestly didn't care that they made Taskmaster a girl. I thought it actually worked for the story that they were trying to tell. Like they were trying to create, the evil villain guy's like relationship to, him being this fatherly figure to like the Red Room, girls and stuff like that. So it kind of just made sense thematically to have Taskmaster be his daughter. And everyone was losing their mind about the gender swap of it. It's like, trust me, there are times when gender swapping and all that stuff, it feels like that's so dumb. Like that, like why do that? But that one just kind of made sense for the story they were trying to tell. Like that was one where it's like, I think that this one is not the one to point as being like an egregious offense. I trade all that nonsense for an original page for FF48 and 49. Are we talking about comic books right here? I also probably would do something like that. If the new gun Superman film tanks, Detective 27 could replace Action 1 as the GOAT. Do we think that that's true? Is that actually true? I don't know. I feel like see, this is the theory. This is the theory of like, bringing it back to the main topic of the show. Do comic books need movies to be successful or to thrive? I should say, because they don't need movies, obviously, but to thrive. If the movie tanks, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I agree. I think Action One will always be the GOAT within comic collecting and always be the most valuable because it now is seen as that. It's like the snowball effect. Because it is known as the greatest comic, it's a self-fulfilling thing. Like it'll always just be the status symbol of it being the great comic. But man, oh man, if James Gunn Superman flops, then it's going to be a tough day at the office for DC. And that's what I would say is like, I do actually think that there probably is some concern with DC if their universe doesn't get going because, you know, although in their current comic book landscape, as far as I can tell, I think they're actually doing pretty good. I think people really do enjoy the Absolute Universe. And I think that they're doing pretty good on that front. Although there was that criticism of the Batman Hush movies the Hush 2, which, you know, I read the first issue for it and I thought it was okay. But there was a lot of criticism towards it. And I think that they definitely need the movies to be successful. Just looking. The word family doesn't hit the same without Dom Toretto. True. Yeah. I feel the void because Vin Diesel is not saying family. It's true. It's true. Let me catch up to, you know, another part of the conversation here. Once again, shout out to Derek for the 5 gifted memberships. Oh my God. I'm so behind. Bron's saying here, insert a picture of the woke is broke mob beating a dead horse. You know, Yellow Flash, what's going on, man? Fake Taskmaster, ruin one of the best villains in Marvel. See, but Flash, dude, like that's one where I feel like, again, my whole thesis, would it have been cooler to see OG Taskmaster? Like, yeah, probably. But like, that's just one where it's like, I just get it. Cause they were just like, again, the story that they were trying to tell, it just sort of worked. It's like my Civil War example. It's like the story they were trying to tell for Civil War. They were just like, hey, let's use Wanda instead of the New Warriors to be the catalyst to the story. But like, that one is not the most egregious one. That was one where I was like, you know what? I think that one's okay. Like, I think that one, I can live with that one. I can live with that one. But there's been other ones that are really bad. I love the Black Widow movie. All right, let's see. Hector says, comics people always forget that most people watching MCU movies have never read a comic before. Shocker, I know. Yeah, that's true, Hector. I mean, you know what the other thing is this is interesting. And again, I actually not sure, like, we kind of live in an interesting world here where it's like, at this point, like the MCU, for instance, is its own universe. So all the rules, all the creative decisions have to exist within that self-sustaining ecosystem. Like it has to all be there, right? So it's like you have to look at the chips that you have on the tail and then on the table, and then create the story from there that exists within that ecosystem in that movie and that universe. Because that audience, you have to assume, knows absolutely nothing about comic books, and they only know what's in the movies. But I will say we're in this weird space now where I think a lot of the creatives that work in these spaces, and some of the things I've even the conversations I've had and heard from other people, is like they know that as soon as they put a movie out or a trailer out or whatever, there's going to be someone out there like Cosmic Wonder or whoever is going to make a video like explaining like who is Shah LaBeouf, or like, you know, Comics Explained is going to make a video that's like, you know, this in-depth discussion of like Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, and they're going to explain it. So like now they're kind of taking like the meta element into account when they do the stories, which I think is actually really bad. I don't think you should do that. because at least how I watch movies, every time I go into a movie, it's like, all right, here we go. Like, this is a new chapter. We're tuning out everything we know about the world, and I'm just evaluating the movie based on what I see from the movie. But like, I think I'm in the minority there. I think most people don't care. I think people are just willing to, like, the best example of this is, I love Lord of the Rings, but like the first time I saw Lord of the Rings, having not read the books, when they like all of a sudden incorporated like the Eagles, and like the invincible undead army that owes Aragorn a favor at the end of the movie, I was like, where the hell did this army come from? And then all of my friends who knew the books were like, dude, trust me, like it's in the story, blah, 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 all this stuff. Even though I enjoyed those movies, I was like, yeah, that's bullshit. Like, where the hell did that come from? Where did the Eagles come from? I feel like the MCU is now at that point where they just know people will be able to explain where the Eagles came from. Let's see here. Catching up. Yes, they do need movies. Most people have a mind to spend or fly. Joe says, do you think Iger scaling things back with shows and movies will improve overall MCU quality? Yeah, I think it will. I mean, they know in the build, they know over there that their product has sucked. Like, they know it, I mean, or even if they were hoping that their stuff was good, like Kevin Feige knows that show was terrible, or he knows this movie sucked or whatever. So them scaling back gives them a chance to reevaluate it. Also, too, let's be honest, like I use the analogy, it's like a sports team. Like when everyone's winning, everything is fine, right? If you're winning championships, then there's no friction. But as soon as you start to lose, like the truth starts to come out. And all of a sudden you're sitting in those boardrooms and those creative conversations. And like, where before, even though we all think that Kevin, even though we all think that Kevin Feige would have power, as much power as he wants and carte blanche to do anything, it doesn't always work like that. You know what it is, guys. Like when you have a bunch of producers in there and executives, and you got people from the marketing team, and you got people from the merch department, and they're all talking about all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do this Marvels movie and it's going to be this and blah, blah, blah. Like, even if Kevin Feige's like, that's a dumb idea, I don't want to do that. Like all these divisions and calendars you have to hit and all this stuff is already in motion, and we already made the choice and we're already going for it. Like he can't like stop the production. Like it's even with someone in his position. But because they had been failing and all the movies were losing money, it becomes a lot easier to stand up in that boardroom and all of a sudden say, guys, we're not doing this. Like you can point to the bottom line and say, we're not going this route anymore. And the reins get back to him. So yeah, I mean, like, that's just what happens. That's just what happens. Flash says, did you get to go to C2E2? I picked up a decent Brave the Bold 28. Oh, dude, nice. I didn't get to go to C2E2 this year. I went last year and it was a lot of fun. But I heard that this year was awesome. That's a sick book though that you got. Off topic, I walked by Swag at WonderCon and he was much taller than I expected. Not sure why I expected him to be 5'7". I am a totally normal height. I am 5'10", if you guys would like to know my height. But yeah, it's funny how when we watch people on stuff, like you never really know what people are going to look like. You know what I mean? Yellow Flash says, one good thing about movies is they're losing relevance. They're 100% losing relevance. There's no doubt about that. You know what it is? You know what the real thing that I feel like, here's something that, like, without being like full doomer, movies are in a real big hurt. Like they're really screwed. Like, I don't think people recognize, like, let's factor in AI, let's factor in that Gen Z doesn't necessarily want to watch movies. I mean, they'll go see the occasional Minecraft movie and stuff, but like by and large, that's just not where most people are craving their entertainment anymore these days. And we just live in a different world. Like it used to be that movies had culture on their side, that they were the most important force of culture. Because like if you went to see the Jim Carrey Ace Ventura movie, like you had to see it because you were going to go to school and all of your friends were going to be talking about like alrighty then and quoting all the lines from the movie. And if you didn't know the quotes to the lines of the movie, you weren't going to be able to participate in that cultural conversation. But nowadays, like, it's just not the same anymore. Like, occasionally it's the culture driving force. Like, occasionally you get Barbenheimer and stuff, and you kind of need to know. But a lot of times, like, that culture isn't necessarily seeing the movie. It's like the meme that was created out of that thing in the movie. So, like, in order for you to feel like I'm up on culture, you don't need to go to the movies anymore. You just need to exist online, because that's where culture is coming from. And then on the flip side of that, it also used to be that movies were like kind of the most stimulating art form. So if you had something interesting to say, or like an interesting story to tell, or a perspective, or like something that really, like, changed your perspective on something, whether it be like let's say you watched an old war movie, like Three Kings, like, wow, Three Kings, like, made you see like maybe the war in the Middle East is really about oil and money and all this stuff. And it was like really, interesting to see that. Nowadays, you can just listen to a podcast of really brilliant intellectual people talking about, geopolitical issues. And that can be the thing that stimulates you intellectually. So now you don't need to watch the movie anymore to get like the intellectual side of it either. So not only are movies not the thing driving culture nor intellectualism, there's better places to get it. So it doesn't matter how good they make these movies anymore. It doesn't matter like what they try to do or what marketing things they do. It's just like they've lost that. And they're never going to be able to get it back. We live in a different world. It's the same thing as like video killed the radio star, whatever a saying is, killed the theater, like like live plays. Eventually those went out of fashion, and internet killed movies. Like, that's just the world we live in. Swag's point in his video today about them wiping this reality for Secret Wars is exactly what I've been saying for months. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, like, I just feel like that's so clear. It's so clear. I bet Kevin Feige lays awake at night just thinking to himself, like, God, I cannot wait to get to Secret Wars so I can just either retire or start over. Like, he is just like, God, I guess want to go there so we can flush this universe down the drain. Credit to him. As much as a train wreck as it's been in a lot of ways, and as much as like the multiverse has not worked, a lot of people out there have been like saying like they should just restart the whole thing. It's like, I feel like you can't do that. You have to, you gotta still navigate it through the current canon to the proper point to where you can restart it. You can't just say, sorry guys, we're starting over today. Like, you gotta see this through. But 100%, they're restarting this whole thing. They're restarting this whole thing. And you know what's going to happen? They're just going to decide what they want to keep and what they want to lose. The MCU at this point is just like WWE wrestling. Like, it's more like, it's like this persistent, ongoing narrative that has existed for decades. And just like wrestling, they kind of just go with where the crowd is going, and they make calls and things change. And when they see that a wrestler is popular, they're going to ride that wave. And I think that that's going to happen with Secret Wars. Like, if we watch Secret Wars and I don't know, if Hugh Jackman is the biggest hit from Secret Wars and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the biggest hit coming out of Secret Wars, or Andrew Garfield, and they all enjoy it and they have fun, they might just say to themselves like, hey, you guys want to come back and keep going? Like, if it's winning, if it's successful, it's successful. Like, I genuinely think that that's going to happen. Like, I think like whatever the audience deems a success, that's what they'll continue to pursue in the future. I'm tired of people saying they're okay with movies being different from the comics. I want a movie as close to the chosen story being adapted to the film, like 300 or Sin City. Try to follow source material. I mean, again, like, I would just say, yeah, that can be cool at times, but I also just think like sometimes they're different mediums, because like like why not just read the comic book at that point? Like, it's a different medium. Like, you got to be able to make some creative changes, and some creative changes have been good for the MCU. Like, clearly they're not exactly, one-to-ones. Like, let's just take RDJ Iron Man. Like the movies have improved the Iron Man character tremendously. I think that's totally fair to say. In 20 years, kids that grew up with the MCU won't be nostalgic for comics, unfortunately. They'll be nostalgic for the movies in the same way I'm 40 and still love Mighty Ducks. Joe, yeah, I think that they're going to be nostalgic. I think the truth is, I think this kids are going to be nostalgic for old internet memes. You know what I saw the other day? That was like, holy shit. I got totally nostalgic for this. Was Ask a Ninja. Do you guys know about Ask a Ninja? Dude, like early YouTube Ask a Ninja was like my favorite YouTube comedian skit person. And I randomly got fed Ask a Ninja on my Instagram reels. And I was like, dude, I was so nostalgic for that. But I feel like that's the type of stuff the kids are going to be nostalgic for. They're going to be like, you guys remember Charlie Bit My Finger? And then they're going to like be nostalgic to that. So I don't even know if they're going to be nostalgic for, you know, movies and stuff. We need a crossover movie with Marvel and DC. Here's the thing too. We probably will get that. I mean, we're going to get the crossover, comic book this year, apparently still. I don't know. But yeah, once they get to Secret Wars and it's successful, I mean, look, man, money talks. If Superman makes $1 billion this year and FM makes $1 billion and Secret Wars comes out and that makes $1 billion and then they do a Justice League movie and that makes $1 billion or whatever. And then one day James Gunn says, hey, let me direct a Avengers Justice League crossover. Money talks. They probably would do it. Is it wrong for comic canon to be used as a building block for the MCU instead of storyboard for movies? Is it wrong? I don't know if it's wrong or right, but it is. I think there's no doubt that current comic publishing is basically a focus group for testing, if not movies in the future, like we'll call it IP, right? Because the brand of Marvel and DC is just their IP, their characters and their IP. So the comic books is just a pamphlet to see what people are still kind of liking and interested in and just testing the waters, for it. And then eventually they want those things to be successful in other mediums. So it's kind of hard to say, like, can I be honest? Can I be honest with you guys for a second? I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy current comic books for the most part, mostly indies, Occasionally there's a Marvel or DC book that's pretty decent. But I got to be honest. Like, I don't consider anything in comic books post 2010 canon. I just don't. Like, even when I read New Spider-Man, to me, I'm just like, is this really canon? Is Mary Jane Venom really canon? I don't think so. I don't really take it that serious. And maybe, maybe that's just me. But like, I don't really consider whatever happens within the last, handful of years to be that important to the building blocks of those characters. I said for a while, Marvel needs to do an ultimate MCU. In other words, self-contained animated or live action film series that adapt stories for comic fans a little faithfully. Well, they might do that. I mean, like when they reboot the entire universe, like that could be where they go with it. And I think that might not be a bad idea. I mean, here's my question. A lot of people have been saying that when they reboot after Secret Wars, it's going to be all X-Men. Does that mean that we're not going to see Captain America and Iron Man anymore? It's kind of hard for me to think that. They've built so much brand equity in the name Avengers. Like, Disney still owns this thing, right? They still have Avengers Campus at Disneyland. Like, they still sell Avengers merchandise. They can't go that long without a movie named Avengers. So to your point of your comment and where I'm trying to go with it is I do think that there's a place where maybe they bring back the Iron Mans of the world and the Captain Americas of the world, and they clearly got to do. They don't clearly have to do, but this is what their justification is going to be, because they always do this type of justification thing, which is like, well, we can't do what we previously did, even though it was massively successful and everybody liked it. We got to reinvent the wheel and do something different. You don't, but I understand how that argument within a creative producer session seems salient. You know, I understand why people think that that's the case, even though they don't need to do that. But anyways, I say that they're going to be like, we need to do a totally different Captain America than Chris Evans, a totally different Iron Man from RDJ, and we're going to do the ultimate versions of them, you know, whatever that actually ends up meaning. Razor says the DD show was amazing. You know what's funny about that? DD show, I've seen the first 3 episodes. So I'm not caught up, but I will eventually finish the whole thing. But what's funny about that is like, so I know people that work at Marvel, and they were like, to the point where I was saying, where it's like, oh, you can't do the thing that everyone loved. We got to make it different. That was literally what happened. You know, like the first time when they decided that they were going to do Daredevil for Marvel, like the conversation was, well, like, should we just literally pick it up where the Netflix show left off? And from what I was told, the conversation in that building were like, no, we have to do something completely different. We can't just do the same thing. We have to change it up. And there was a lot of friction inside the building, because they were like, are we sure about that? You know, and they definitely went more of the cheeky route, like not full She-Hulk, but it was in that wheelhouse. And then back to earlier what we were talking about, when I'm sure that at a certain point they were just like, guys, this sucks. And like, it became a lot easier for Kevin Feige to all of a sudden walk in the building and be like, this is not acceptable. We're not doing this. And they redid the whole show. And I mean, this is like public news at this point. They definitely reshot the entire series. So, and seemingly, you know, to a good effect, because people seem to like it so far. I always seem to like the Captain America type movies more. I guess space powers and being all powerful makes me care less about the character somehow. Yeah, I think that, well, here's the thing. I think it's just harder to do a space opera because you're working with fantastical elements. So already you're at a place where it's like, okay, not only do I just have to get people invested in a character, which is already difficult, I have to get them invested in a character within context to a world that they don't necessarily know about or understand, or like nothing to necessarily grasp onto. So like a failure on the ground floor level is, or success in a ground floor level in a grounded superhero movie is not easier, but like you have a better chance doing okay because you just have more of a leeway of understanding than if you do a superhero movie. For instance, like I didn't like Captain America Brave New World, but like, you know, if you watched it on a plane, fine. You know what I mean? But that movie felt more palatable than like the Marvels did, because it's, or like, is it better than Quantumania? I don't know. They're both pretty bad. But like in Quantumania, you know, it's like we're in the quantum realm. Like, what is this? Like we got like gelatinous goo carrot. Like, what are we doing here? You know, at least where it's like when Sam Wilson's talking to Harrison Ford, it's like, yeah, okay, the dialogue's not that great, but like it's just two guys in a room talking about jet pilots and stuff. So it's like you can just understand it better. Zello says the real question is which DC keys are going to go through the roof if the new Superman movie is a big hit. You know, what's interesting about that is what's interesting about that. Hold on, actually, 1 second. I don't know. Hey, Brian, I don't know if you're still here, but let me just hit you real quick. I'm only just seeing your text and all that stuff right now, but I did just drop you a link. But if you're still around. All right, let me get back to this. So the real question is which DC keys are going through the roof if the new Superman movie is a big hit? The problem is like you can't really FOMO on an Action Comics 1. And a lot of the DC keys are Golden Age books or even early superhero books or excuse me, early Silver Age books. Like first appearance of Crypto, the dog, like that's an expensive comic, like either way. So it's hard to like FOMO into that. So you have to kind of look to like the new stuff. And there's going to be a lot of new books that do become very, very successful or do get forward on. I mean, we've already talked about them. Like, I think what is the Superman hero series? The Superman series that James Gunn is basing it off of, is it the Tom King run? Like, we've seen a lot of those sell. We've seen a lot of the books related to the new Mr. Terrific sell. So, the same old stuff, same old kind of spec stuff that, frankly, I don't know if it's going to really hold its value. The old stuff will, but the new stuff, not so sure. Get a link. I sent it to you, Brian. Let's see here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a guest in the house from YouTube fame, industry of comics. We got Brian McClay. What's going on, dude?
What's up, brother? How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Good, man. Yeah.
This one, I'm going to light up this cigar for our boy Pop Sequentialism right now. So enjoying a nice cigar outside. So.
Okay.
You know what that is.
What's going on, man? What do you think? So I don't know if you came in to weigh in on this topic a little bit, as far as the superhero movie stuff, but I pose these questions as a little bit of a thing to just have a conversation about. But what do you think? Like, there's a lot of conversation about this FF trailer. I guess, did you see the trailer? Did you like it? How are you feeling about movies?
Okay, so the only reason I've been excited about FF is because I was told by somebody who says they're in the know that the movie was good. The trailers have not been good to me. They feel off. You and Yellow Flash had great points where you were talking about, because I saw Yellow Flash wrote in the thing that they're going to reboot everything. With Secret Wars, you were talking about Feige saying, hey, we got to right the ship. That is 100% true. They need to right the ship now. If they don't right the ship now, it's just going to sink quick. I mean, it is faltering. And if this is what it takes to right the ship, that's fine. But here's the problem I have. Did you see the Robert Downey Jr. pics of the suit that he's in, and everybody's saying that's real? Have you seen that?
Yeah, there was leaked image. I did see it, but like, was that AI or was that, like, no one confirmed if that was real or not?
The one where he had the really gray hair. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say it's real. I've heard a lot of people say it's AI. If it's real, holy shit, are they making a mistake? That character needs to look like Doom, not Iron Man Doom. It needs to look like Doom. And I understand they want to tie that into the story, but people aren't waiting for Iron Man Doom. They're waiting for Doom. They're waiting for Victor Von Doom. And I think that's I think that's a problem,
I think people are going to be disappointed, because I think that it's going to be Iron Man Doom. Again, I'm of the opinion where it's like, listen, I'm just going to, like, my mantra is, if it's good, it's good, it's good. If it sucks, it sucks. Like, that's just the reality. We'll have to see what happens. But like, he's going to be Iron Man Doom, like 100%, because like, if from their perspective, in the world building aspect, like, there's no way that they can just say, oh guys, we're just going to have him be look like Robert Downey Jr. with no explanation. It's not going to fly. Yeah, we understand, the idea of variance, but by the time that they start marketing that movie and that whole thing, like, the general audience is going to ask questions and they're going to be confused. They're going to be like, well, I thought he was Iron Man. Like, think about like your friends who like are like the casual moviegoers. Like, as soon as they see that, they're gonna be like, well, I'm confused. Like, Iron Man is Dr. Doom. Like, so they're going to have to tie that thread, which means, to your point, he's going to be Iron Man Doom in some manner. It's going to be connected. And actually, I heard a really, really good theory, which this isn't spoilers because it was just something I read online, but I saw something that was like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. You know how like when he snapped his fingers and did the Infinity Gauntlet in Endgame, and then like before he died, he was all disfigured and stuff. Like, I heard it's like, oh, well, what if that's how Doom got how Doom is disfigured? It's like, oh, he's all disfigured from the Iron Man snap, whatever. And I was like, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. I think that's also another reason why, let me know if it logged me in through Instagram. I don't know why. So if my camera, if anything's messed up to you, let me know. But the thing that's interesting is one reason why people love comics and characters so much is the history, the continuity, right? And I think that's what's cool. If you're going to tie all these movies together, you need to have those callbacks, not totally like make it be a big part of the plot line, or if you have to give a little, tell it what it's about. But that's another reason that people will love it if you have those callbacks, you have that continuity. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think like because that's what gives it the rich texture of like that the filmmakers are thinking about it and all this stuff. And frankly, that's been like one of the big criticisms of like the last phase or couple of phases or whatever. Cause like, people have been like, I thought there was a giant celestial in the ocean. Like, where has that been? It's like, finally they referenced it. Right. But it's like, clearly.
And it was a good reference too, by the way. It really worked. Like that was one of the few things that I felt like worked in Cap. Everything else was the only two things to me that worked in Cap were the Celestial tie-in and the Joaquin, what's the name character, the young Falcon character,
the Joaquin Torres,
Torres, yeah. Those two things were great. So yeah, you're right, man.
Yeah, but like, okay, so what do you think would happen if anything? Let's say that these movies bomb. Let's say that both FF and Superman are terrible, like just awful movies. Everybody's like, wow, that was really bad. Like for some magical reason, everyone agrees, which clearly that won't be the case, but everyone agrees that these movies are bad. What would happen to comic books, if anything? Do you think anything would actually happen?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that's a great question, dude. Two things that happen. One, outside of comic books, but for comic movies, I think if these two movies horribly bomb, Tarantino and Scorsese win. Comic book movies are done, right? They're gonna stop. At least a cheery, superhero movie. Maybe I should say superhero movie. In comics, that's a even more interesting thing because what's holding the comic sales up? I mean, I understand that there's a lot of people that still love the hobby like we do, and we're still going to support it, but is that enough to keep the big two publishers, parent companies, to want to still, keep this going? And what I mean by keep it going, keeping the press going.
Dude, there's no way that, I mean, maybe Marvel will. Like if FF bombs, like they're going all the way to Secret Wars no matter what, right? Like they can make $0, but they're going to spend their way to Secret Wars. But if Superman bombs, like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know if like, what is Warner Brothers' financial situation? Because at a certain point, it's like they lost movie. Take James Gunn's universe away. Like the Flash lost movie, Aquaman 2 lost movie, Blue Beetle lost movie. Like they had a string of bombs, and it's not like they don't have like a money tree. So it's like if Superman does poorly, like, are we really going to get Booster Gold? Are we really going to see like the Swamp Thing movie, like all this stuff? Like, there's no way, right? Like the board of directors over there would be like, why are we doing these superhero stuff when nobody wants to watch it? Like they'll just pivot to, I mean, I don't know what Warner Brothers has been doing that's been successful, but like, maybe they'll just make more like, I don't know, King Kong movies or whatever franchises they have,
Yeah. I agree. I think it's going to be a lot of big changes, which we're probably not going to like as fans. But hopefully they won't, cross your fingers. Maybe Star Wars might be able to save a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen with Star Wars. So.
Yeah. I mean, Andor season 2 has come out. I have to catch up on all of that. This is the other problem too, is like, I'm not even caught up on Daredevil. I'm not caught up on Andor. I haven't seen Creature Commandos, and I'm the target audience, and it's like, I want to watch that stuff, but like, I don't have time, or I don't feel like I have time, or I should actually put it as, it's not that important to me, which that's something that I don't know how they battle that, cause it's like, it's just not that important. Cause they're just competing with a lot of stuff. There's like I'd rather watch YouTube channels. I'd rather read comics. I'd rather play video game. There's just other things. And I don't know how they compete with that, but I'll say this. If the movies are good and they're really exciting, how do you think that affects comic books? If they just absolutely crush it at San Diego Comic-Con, do you think we're going to get back into a place where, say, vintage keys are going to be of interest once again?
Yes, 100%.
Mm.
100%. If that movie hits, if it's a rocket, if it's like the biggest success, comic book keys are gonna, even minor keys for Superman's gonna start going crazy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be absolutely crazy again. Hopefully, but I definitely think major keys will go back up. If we see Superman Mania, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Could we? I think there's a chance. I'm not thinking that I'm not too positive on it right now though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they hit it out the park in my opinion with the teaser and the trailer with the pooch. Like that was fucking great. And so I'm excited for it. My problem is that, you know, how many wins have we had lately? And I think you'll agree with me. There's something not only broken in comics, there's something also broken in big movie production right now for
Oh,
comic book
100%.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They have been off. Although I will say I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I thought that was pretty darn good. But yeah, I don't know with the Fantastic Four movie. Oh, let me ask you, what did you think of what did you think of female Silver Surfer? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Or, and maybe even the discourse that's going on with it.
The hair was weird,
Yeah.
right? Like the thought that she has hair, kind of interesting. Um, here's what I'm okay with it, and let me tell you why I'm okay with it. I'm only okay with it because I haven't seen the movie yet. But if it's bad, then I'm not okay with it. But if they do something cool where like they're in a different universe, you know, it's obviously not our 616 that we know or whatever the movie universe is. Is the movie universe 616? Yeah. So
Yeah.
if it's not just 616 like we know, and it's a different place, and Galactus comes and wins over there, and they bounce out, and they end up in our universe, and then our Silver Surfer shows up, and it's the Norrin Rad that we know, I'm good. I'm totally good. If they try to act like Norrin Rad isn't going to show up, I want Norrin Rad to show up. That's I'm a cosmic nerd, right?
Yeah.
My favorite Marvel character is the freaking Watcher. You know what I mean? So, like, I want to see Silver Surfer. I loved Fantastic Four #2. When Silver Surfer in that movie was such a badass in that movie, that's what I want. I want that. So personally, I'm okay with it if it leads to our Silver Surfer. You know what I mean? If they tell that story correctly. And also, if it's a good story, if they do a good job with it, I'm okay with it. I just want it to be good. I don't think, you know,
Yeah.
that's all I want.
Yeah. It's the same for me. Again, like I would much prefer to see Norrin Rad because I'm a fan of that character. So it's like, obviously I'm biased towards wanting to see that version, but you know, if it's good, it's good. But I will say, like, I wonder if there's a reason why they chose to use this character as opposed to, like, will we just watch the movie and it's like, yeah, and it's Shalaba, and then we just like don't hear anything about Norrin Rad, and it's like, well, why did they choose that one? Like, it is strange because it seems like, well, just if you just probably just want to choose like the most popular version of that character because it just makes sense. It's like you're making it harder for yourself to not choose the mainstream most popular characters. Although the MCU seemingly has been making it hard on itself purposely or whatever, you know, because they want to elevate stuff. I also wonder if it's like, is there like a whole side of this like we just really don't know, like, which is like, you know how it's like they own Marvel, but like maybe they don't quite own the correct rights for Silver Surfer, or there's like Kirby estate considerations and they're like, oh, let's use this one. You know, I'm I'm willing to accept that there could be a lot of that type of stuff, like just corporate legal stuff that they're constantly up against that we just don't know about. Like, but I'm being charitable. I'm being charitable to them. So
Well, what if? So what we know about the movie is right that they're not going to do any origin stories. We're already into it. Like
Yeah.
the Green Lantern's already there. They have some type of team thing going on already. Superman's already established. That's a win, right? That's a win. So, and we're supposed to go right into the battle. There's already freaking things fighting the cities, and that's a win to me. We don't need any of that other shit. We all know Superman's origin story. So if it's just like a kick-ass, action-packed Superman movie, you know, the whole time, and he has call-outs to the fandom here and there, everything looks great for it. So I think that we can be a little bit positive on Superman. The Fantastic Four, I'm a little bit more worried about, but um,
Yeah.
I think Superman has to win. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is Superman. This is like,
Yeah.
you don't want to see a Superman movie do bad. That's not good. That's not good
Yeah.
for.
I think it's not good. I think it is going to win. I mean, I've seen some people have conversations or some videos talking about like, oh, which movie do you think is going to make more money? I definitely think Superman is going to make more money. Like, I think that people are yearning for it to be good. Like everyone's just going to will it to be good, you know, whether it is or not, we'll see. But I think people are rooting for it.
Yeah, I think so, brother. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Thunderbolts does. I think it's going to fail, but if it does good and Sentry ends up being a bad guy in that, and they turn him into a good guy to go help against Doom or whatever's coming with Doom, I'm in for that. That could win that one. Fantastic Four, I'm hoping that it's good. Superman, I think we got a good chance for it to being good, but I'm not getting my hopes up on any of them. I've been Star Wars as a lifelong Star Wars fan. I've been Star Wars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't get my hopes up, but my cigar is done, brother. Get back to your show. Appreciate you.
All right.
Much love. We'll see you later, bro.
Yeah. Talk soon. There you have it. Special guest, Brian McClay from Beyond Wednesdays. Appreciate you stopping by. So yeah, I mean, interesting to hear, you know, some of his thoughts. I've been checking out your guys' chats down here as well. I thought that this was interesting. So it's like, so Ross says, Feige said some years back that he wanted female heroes to outnumber the male ones. Yeah, I think he 100%, or I remember him saying that. But again, and maybe I'm being too charitable, I just think that that's what he thought people wanted to hear at that time. Like, to me, it's just as simple as like, Disney just wants to make money. They just want to make money, you know? So whatever they think people want to hear is what they're going to say, you know? And at that time, I think that it was the cool thing to say. And then things change. You know, one of the interesting things is like, I'll share a little story just about one of my managers that I had, used to have in film and stuff, who was repping me. I remember him having the conversation and he was just like, you know, this was like way back when. He was like, look at the movies that are being nominated for the Oscars. This was like 2015 or something like that. He's like, look at the trend of the movies that are being nominated for the Oscars. And we had this long conversation that was like, it was very clear that for whatever reason in the culture, the trend was moving towards more like cultural, social diaspora, issues and things like that. And like, you know, the days of Dark Knight being nominated were really long gone and far and few between. And it became very obvious that that was what was driving a lot of that stuff. And then, you know, off that backbone, you got to think about it from like Kevin Feige's perspective. Again, I mentioned earlier in the stream that I get all the screeners. I've been sent tons of Marvel screeners that were being pushed to be marketed as Oscar material. Like, you know, I got the Avengers movies, I got Civil War, I got things like that. These were all being solicited to me. So give me a little leash here. I'll connect this all. I'll square this circle for you at some point. So it was clear that Kevin Feige was trying to, or Marvel was trying to market its movies to win awards, or at least get that level of respect within the film and television industry. And then eventually the one Marvel movie that broke through and actually got a ton of Academy Award nominations, it was Black Panther. And Black Panther, you know, obviously had a lot of, you know, social issues and things that were, you know, interesting themes that worked with it within the culture. And like I had my conversation with my management at the time, which was like, look at the movies that are being recognized at the Oscars. And it's like, oh, there you have the perfect like factors that like finally someone like Kevin Feige is like, finally my work is being recognized at the Academy. And it was a movie that was Black Panther. So I bet in his mind, he just sort of decided like, oh, this is it. Social issues is the ticket. You know, this is what I should be pushing and seeing. And it's like, they thought that that was going to be the winning ticket because that's what people wanted to see, because those were the movies that were winning awards, because in theory, those are the movies that people like, which obviously now that's not the case because clearly the awards are very, very disconnected from the fans. But at that time, that was at least the plausible theory. So whatever the incentive structures are going to be the incentive structures for people, you know, with their movies. And that's probably why he said that. And now things change. So now the incentives are different. So now his tune's going to change. Birdman won Best Picture in Oscars in 2015. Okay, maybe I'm a year. You know what I mean? It was like when did it was a really good movie. God. Blue something. It was the one where they said like, oh, this is the movie that won, and then they said, oops, we said the wrong thing. It was actually this other movie. So embarrassing. But that movie was actually pretty good, and that one won Best Picture. You know, worthy sale. But it was around that time. Moonlight. That was it. Yes, Moonlight. Thank you guys. What a fumble that was. Can you imagine? They said that other movie, and those people walked on stage, and then they said, oh, sorry. How do you mess that up? Razor says, Girl Punisher would be hot. You know, here's the thing. If they started to design MCU characters as Marvel Rivals versions or J. Scott Campbell renditions, I think people would be okay with the female Silver Surfer. Let's see. I'm just kind of catching up what you guys have to say. Hey, appreciate you guys all hanging out with me. It's been a fun conversation today. You know, again, just circling it back to the main topic of the show. Can comics thrive without movies? Yeah, of course they can. You know, I thought that this would be something to talk about because, like people are like, oh, this is dead. It's over. You know, the FF trailer, it's terrible. And then listen, I understand where you're coming from. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care. Like, but comics will survive either way. And I'm just going to see the movie and I'll decide for myself if it's good or not. We'll see. Lefteros, what up, man? He says, box office numbers don't carry as much weight in 2024. Home entertainment generated $38.63 billion, while the box office generated only $5.46 billion. People are consuming differently. 100%. 100%. You know what the thing is? This is another thing, man. We can't go in on like another like 10-hour conversation here. But I don't know. This is like, I don't know how people get around this, but there's like a whole like attitude on the internet right now that is like what is true and what feels true. And to your point, it is true that people are consuming different, but that's not going to stop people from feeling like, look at the box office numbers, they're tanking, therefore movies suck, which they do suck. But I don't think it's just their fault. I think it's people consuming different. You know what a good example of this? Here's what I'm trying to say. You know, right now, I don't know if you guys are NBA fans, you know, NBA playoffs is coming out. You know how there's like so much content out there about how like, oh, the NBA today is trash. Like the NBA sucks. Like the product sucks. Everyone just shoots threes. And they have a point. There are a lot of games that are really, really boring. And they'll say like, oh, like ratings are down. Look, nobody wants to watch the game because everyone shoots threes. And they do have a point. But the reality is, I think it's just because most people watch the TikTok highlight reels and most people watch the YouTube post-game highlights. And they don't care about watching the actual game. And that's why ratings are down. Nobody wants to watch NBA. They just want to watch the TikTok that's put together and then look at the comment section. Like, why wouldn't you want to consume the game that way? So it's like, is the NBA worst product? Is it like dying? Is the NBA dying? Like, I don't think so. Because if you actually look at the thing that matters is ticket sales, and ticket sales are generally the same. So I think it's kind of like the same thing, like you're saying with movies. It's like box office is dying. It's like, yeah, but also people are watching things in other places. And I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's like, I feel like it's like the NBA argument. It's the same thing. And yes, the product is worse, but also it's not dying because also people consume differently. You know what I mean? That's my thing. That's my feeling on it. All right, guys. We've been going about 1 hour, 44 minutes. I got to almost wrap it up soon, but it was good hanging out tonight, having this conversation. Hopefully you guys found this entertaining or interesting. I really love seeing what all you guys have to say. Shout out to everyone in the chat for holding it down. Definitely, if you guys catch the rewind, let me know what you guys think about what the conversation is. What conversation we had here today. How you guys felt about it, you know? Really, really appreciate it. You know, is FF going to be good? I don't know. Is it lame that it's the female Silver Surfer? Maybe. But what are you going to do about it? Just don't see the movie. Vote with your wallet. That's the only thing you do. Vote with your wallet. But yeah, and we'll have to see as people vote with their wallet, what will that mean for comic book values? I have to say that I think if there's more people, there's more money in the economy, comic book values will be okay. And movies are only one small factor into the values of the comic books. They can help, but they're not the be all end all. You know why we absolutely know that's the case? Because comic values used to have 12 cents on the cover. They used to say 10 cents and 12 cents on the cover. And before we got a single movie or a single TV show about any comic book ever, years later, those things were more expensive. So you don't have to have movies to increase the value of comic books. Values of comic books have increased in themselves. Actually, the value of the dollar has gone down, but I digress. Let's not get into that whole conversation. But for the sake of this, yeah, comic book values can go up outside of movie factors. It's just how many people are collecting comic books, how many people have expendable income, how important are these characters to people's nostalgia? Will they spend it on these keys? That's really the only thing that matters. And the movies can help that. And the movies can also hurt that. RIP Morbius. Anyways, that's all I got for the stream. Let's wrap it up now. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. As always, I will catch up with your comments. We'll watch it back, see what you guys have to say. And maybe we can make more content out of this conversation. We should definitely have more in the future. All right, guys. Peace out. Morbin time. Let me end in style with a flamethrower. Flamethrower TBD. No, wait, how does the MCU say it? The flamethrower will return. Peace out. See you guys.